We will now proceed to the main calendar. Third reading, calendar number 4. Clerk will read.
A.5350, sponsored by Assemblyman Mr. Burling. An act to amend the state law in relation to making English the official language of New York State.
Mr. Burling, an explanation is requested. Raise your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Jessica Chavez from the Monroe delegation. I represent Assembly Member Danielle Burling, who is co-sponsoring this bill.
Can you please speak louder?
I come before you to introduce bill number A.5350, which would enact the New York State English Language Empowerment Act, which deems English the official language of the government of the state of New York. I am in favor of this bill, and I urge my colleagues to support it.
I'm
because
sorry to
having-
interrupt. This side chatter has to end now. Sorry, we may continue.
Because having an official language will strengthen and unite the population, making all people linguistically equal. With an official language, all who want to be heard will be heard. One stable language will be powerful and advantage all. Therefore, 3 important reasons my esteemed colleagues should support this bill are: number 1, designating English as the official state language will better serve the diverse ethnic and cultural and linguistic backgrounds of the New York State citizens. With the absence of understanding and speaking English, the citizens of this state are unable to make their voices heard in the legislative process, affecting one's ability to exercise their right to vote or fully understand the rights afforded to them. Number 2, citizens who have a hard time understanding or speaking English have a more difficult time finding gainful employment, distancing themselves of the full benefits of American life for them and their families. Number 3, English is the predominant language of all academics in the United States, since most institutions are predominantly English speaking. If all students were to speak one united language, it will be easier for all to communicate ideas and research findings without losing the meaning and essence of what is being said. It would be an advantage to both student and teacher to communicate in English because taking time to translate takes time away from learning. In conclusion, please remember that this bill will unite people that speak a variety of languages. The intent of this bill is not to eliminate one's cultural identity and pride of first language, but it will allow the opportunity to learn and use English and will equalize the playing field for all. The state of New York is comprised of individuals from many ethnic, cultural, and linguistic backgrounds with rich diversity. Throughout history, the only thread that has bound all these cultures has been the English language. By making English the state's official language, all citizens will be able to participate and take full advantage of the opportunities afforded by American life. Language is a tool that all need to achieve and succeed in life. Only one united language among diverse people will overcome all obstacles and will give all people an opportunity of a better life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. May I remind Assembly members priority will be given to those who have not yet spoken. So if you have not yet spoken, you should consider standing up. Will the sponsor of the bill yield to questions? Thank you. We will now proceed to debating the bill. All those with an argument, please stand. Assembly Member Conti, please raise your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am Lucas Vasquez from the Suffolk delegation. I represent Assembly Member Conti. I rise in favor of this bill. According to the 2010 census, there are 247 languages in the state of New York. We can't afford to provide distinct linguistic services to accommodate all of these languages, but we can make a common global language our official one. Also, this bill will facilitate the assimilation of foreigners into the best culture of the world, America. Finally, according to stateny.org, our state debt is $48.5 billion. Where is the money to fund these distinct linguistic services? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Will Assemblymember Schimmel raise your hand?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Ingrid Wanderling from the national delegation, and I'm representing Assemblywoman Michelle.
Could you please speak louder and clearer?
I wish to speak in favor of this motion because the passing of this bill would be discriminative since it would push foreigners not to talk in their own language. According to the pro-English city data, 28% of the New York population speaks a language other than English, which is certainly a high percentage that cannot be ignored. The passing of this bill will also hurt the economy because we will need more English teaching programs so that we can get people to learn more English. I therefore urge the members not to vote in favor of this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. May I remind Assembly members that if you do not speak louder, from now on, I will be asking you to sit down. Will Assemblymember Jordan please raise your hand?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Christopher Rodriguez. I'm from the Capital District Delegation, and I represent Assemblymember Tony Jordan. I stand in favor of this bill because this bill will provide a cohesive sense of community through common language. This is a broad policy goal aimed to unite the state under one language. This bill will not violate anyone's constitutional civil liberties. It maintains the integrity of both the First and 14th Amendments, which protect the freedom of speech and equal access, respectively. Stated already in the bill, 30 states have already declared English as the official language, including New Hampshire, which is nearby, and California, which faces similar financial troubles. According to the New York Times, the IRS translated 500,000 income tax forms in Spanish, which cost $113,000, and only 718 forms were returned. Why should we waste this money when it can be spent more wisely towards something we as New York State can benefit? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Will Assemblymember McGee please raise your hand? Thank you.
Gracias, señor vocero. Mi nombre es Brandon Sandoval, de la delegación de Suffolk. Estoy representando a William McGee. Me opongo a este bill porque primero que todo es inconstitucional imponer una lengua que no todos hablan. Además, Nueva York y aún todas las Naciones Unidas no están compuestas por americanos, gústele o no. Por eso es que nosotros venimos aquí a este país, para un mejor futuro. En este lugar hay mucha diversidad cultural, entonces ¿por qué plantar una sola cultura? Cuando plantamos una sola cultura, plantamos racismo. Si nosotros estamos plantando una sola cultura, está creando diversidad. Entonces, ¿para qué promover más racismo del que hay? Como nuestra señora gobernadora dijo, en el estado de Nueva York hay más de 100 idiomas. Entonces yo me pregunto qué estaba en la cabeza de esa gente cuando crearon este bill, cuando estaban pensando hacerlo, ¿qué estaban pensando? ¿Qué pasaría con la educación bilingüe y con los trabajos que sí podemos tener? No hagan las cosas más complicadas de lo que son y no creen más racismo de lo que hay. Aunque dudo que este bill pase, si pasa y la lengua inglés pasa a ser la lengua oficial del Estado, nosotros somos latinos, aquí estamos y aquí nos quedamos. Qué orgulloso me siento de ser colombiano, qué orgulloso me siento de ser latino. Gracias.
Save your applause until the end. Will Assemblymember Magnarelli raise your hand? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Bianca Gonzalez. I am here from the Syracuse delegation, and I represent William Magnarelli. I wish to speak against this bill for the reason of that other ethnicities such as Hispanic, Asian, and European are becoming the majority of the population in New York State. And this bill is just another subtle way to the path of discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you. Will Assemblymember Johns please raise your hand?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Christopher Rosado from the Mid-Hudson delegation. I represent Assemblymember Mark Johns. I rise in favor of this bill because, as Americans, we identify speaking one uniform language, but we don't, so we have no common identity to share with each other. Also, in America, the main language we have is business. Our main language is English. Throughout the world, many corporations, such in Japan and Europe, learn English so they can talk in the business world. Also, we might identify as Italian, Puerto Rican, Mexican, Ecuadorian, but even then, that's not who we are. We live in a country called the United States of America, and in that country, we speak English to identify with each other. And if we, as a country, do not have a common identity, then what do we have? A bunch of mishmash that is nothing. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Will Assemblymember Bronson raise your hand?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Erica Gutierrez y represento al asambleísta Harry Bronson. Al igual que también represento a la delegación de el Lower Hudson Valley y me opongo a esta ley. Me opongo porque me pregunto qué va a pasar con los padres que no hablan inglés, que tienen niños y que necesitan ayudarlos. ¿Qué va a pasar con los estudiantes que salen adelante solamente por los programas que le ofrece que son bilingües? Y también no solamente eso, hay personas que son inmigrantes a esta nación y se convierten en ciudadanos. Cuando uno es ciudadano puede votar, pero si no sabe el idioma, ¿cómo va a poder votar si no puede entender? Finalizando mi argumento, quiero también poner en mi argumento.
Por favor, hable un poco más despacio. Gracias.
Perdón. Finalizando mi argumento, también quería traer a la mesa que hay personas que en casos de emergencias necesitan llamar a la seguridad, pero como ya van a poner el inglés, no van a poder llamar y no van a poder comunicarse, solamente porque el idioma es una barrera. Muchos de los inmigrantes y muchas personas que han nacido aquí no hablan inglés y tienen bastantes struggles that they have to go through. Why should we put another one? Thank you.
Thank you. Will Assemblymember Katz please raise your hand? Due to time constraints, we will only have time for 2 more speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Gabriella Zappi, and I'm from the Capital District delegation. I represent Assemblymember Katz, and I support this bill. I don't believe the purpose of this bill is to force the assimilation of any culture in New York State. However, it is most definitely certain that having one official language would simplify and improve the operations of this state. This is the farthest thing from a personal attack on any foreign languages or cultures, and it must be understood that this is simply a way to help immigrants as well as Americans living in this country and New York State belong together.
Thank you. Will Assemblymember Gaberzak Please raise your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Jacob Santos Gomez, and I'm from the Western New York delegation, and I represent Assemblyman Dennis Gabrizak. I urge every member to vote against this motion. By making English the official language of New York State, there can be a high risk of having less translators, making it difficult for those who speak a language other than English. By making this, it will hurt these people rather than assisting them, such as patients in hospitals and emergency rooms, students and parents for school meetings and other assistances, whether financial, governmental, etc. First off, you cannot take everyone in New York and force them to learn. I understand that there are educational programs established to teach our de facto language, but they cannot take in the entire capacity of anyone who does not speak English. Second, if you so wish to take the entire non-Anglophone population, where do you plan on paying the cost to do so? Our state is still in financial debt, and the cost of education is already being cut. Lastly, if you so wish to pass those two obstacles, think again. There are thousands of people who immigrate to the United States each year, meaning you cannot just teach everyone who is here already and be done with it. This would be continuous year after year on the cost of New York State. I therefore hope and sincerely trust that the motion will not be adopted. Vote no. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Please hold your applause until the end. This will be the last bill. If you read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote. All those in favor of the bill say aye. No, please stand. The bill has. Please sit. All those opposed, please stand.
Ayes 35, noes 115.
The bill has been defeated